Recently, Hurricane Beryl broke records when it became the earliest Category 5 hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean. And after a brief stint in the Caribbean and Mexico where it killed at least 7 people, Beryl's headed north to Texas to wreak more havoc. Though it was only a Category 2 hurricane by the time it hit Mexico, Beryl's expected to pick up plenty of steam on its way to Texas, meaning the people who live there could be in for quite a storm. But even if Beryl is catastrophic and somehow kills over 1,000 people, it still won't come close to being the worst hurricane on record. Here, I've got the top 5 deadliest hurricanes and typhoons the world has ever seen. Hurricane, typhoon, and other names all refer to the same thing, and the different names and scales used to measure them are just geographical. Case in point, at number 5 we've got cyclonic storm Nargis. This powerful storm formed in the middle of the Bay of Bengal, a giant gulf that feeds into the Indian Ocean near the end of April in 2008, and it was classified as extremely severe by local authorities. In the US, it would have been labeled a Category 4, which is even stronger than Hurricane Katrina was when it hit New Orleans. Nargis hit several countries, including Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, China, Laos, and the worst hit of them all, Myanmar. When it made landfall in Myanmar's Irrawaddy Delta, the storm surge reached over 25 miles inland, sending floods over 12 feet high all over and destroying an estimated 90 to 95% of all buildings in the delta, not to mention the loss of livestock, farms, and fisheries. Over 2.5 million people were impacted in Myanmar alone, with the official death toll reaching over 138,000. But many people speculate that the true number of dead victims could be much higher, including officials at the Red Cross. Citing government interference with aid, censorship, and bodies washing up on beaches, some speculate that the death toll could be as high as 300,000 or more. It's the deadliest hurricane this century and possibly the deadliest hurricane ever. Another hurricane with a reported 138,000 death toll hit Bangladesh in 1991, again in late April. With wind speeds as high as 160 miles per hour, it would have been a Category 5 when it hit the country's heavily populated coastal area, Chittagong. Before the storm hit, an estimated 2 to 3 million people fled the area, meaning as high as the death toll was, it could have been much higher. As with other storms on the list, the death toll isn't certain, so I'm counting it as a tie with Nargis, even though on paper it's slightly higher. At number 4 we have Super Typhoon Nina. This cyclone started in the Philippine Sea and headed for Taiwan, hitting the island with Category 3 wind speeds on August 3, 1975. It mostly hit mountainous areas as it moved across the island, killing 25 people and injuring 168 more. The real damage came when it crossed the Strait of Taiwan and hit China. Though it was just a tropical storm at that point, it managed to move all the way inland to the heavily populated Henan province, raining down more water in a single day than the province normally gets in a year. As a result, 2 major dams collapsed, flooding the province and breaking other dams in the process. When everything was said and done, more than 175,000 people were estimated to have perished due to the typhoon and subsequent floods, famines, and diseases that it caused. At number 3 is the immensely powerful, immensely horrific Haiphong typhoon in Vietnam. This typhoon hit Vietnam and the Philippines in 1881. Haiphong is a coastal city, today the 3rd largest city in Vietnam. Since the typhoon happened so long ago, details about its wind speed are impossible to find, but it's estimated that at least 300,000 people died as a result of the storm. Some people say those estimates are overstated, but the majority of sources agree with the number. At number 2 we have the Hooghly River Cyclone of 1737. This cyclone struck near Calcutta in the Bay of Bengal, with reported deaths exceeding 300,000, although this number is impossible to verify. Calcutta's population at the time was only 3,000, but skeptics admit that it's possible the storm killed 300,000 people in the Bay of Bengal, including tens of thousands of seagoers who were on ships at the time. There are many other storms from the Bay of Bengal with reported death tolls over 200,000, but I won't mention them all. Before we get to number 1, I'd like to get into some honorable mentions. The deadliest hurricane that hit the United States was the Galveston hurricane of 1900, which hit southern Texas with floods as high as 12 feet tall and killed anywhere from 6,000 to 12,000 people, leaving thousands more without a home. The deadliest Atlantic hurricane was the Great Hurricane of 1780, which killed an estimated 22,000 people in the Caribbean, and the deadliest Atlantic hurricane in the last 50 years is Hurricane Mitch, which killed more than 11,000 people in Honduras and Nicaragua in 1998. If you're wondering, Hurricane Katrina's death toll is somewhere under 2,000. Without further ado, the single deadliest tropical cyclone ever recorded was the Great Bola Cyclone of 1970. This extremely severe cyclonic storm would have ranked as a Category 4 when it hit India and East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, on November 12, 1970. It flooded the Ganges Delta and killed anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 people, easily setting the record for deadliest storm. In one region of Bangladesh, 45% of the entire population was wiped away. The unfavorable government response to the cyclone caused great civil unrest and was part of the reason Bangladesh declared independence months later, which was followed by a bloody war and other tragedies. Personally, I doubt Bola's record will be beaten anytime soon, if ever. As you can see, a lot of the deadliest cyclones take place in Asia, especially the Bay of Bengal. This isn't a random occurrence. A few factors make Asia prime for deadly storms like this. For one, Asia is incredibly populated, holding 4.5 billion of the world's 8 billion people, more than half the population. The Bay of Bengal and China alone have 2.9 billion people, not to mention the rest of Southeast and East Asia. Besides being densely populated, countries in Asia aren't as wealthy as the US, so people often live in less durable homes and may not be able to evacuate. It can also be hard to get aid around, especially when a major storm wrecks the infrastructure. Hurricane Beryl is expected to make landfall tonight, July 7th, but it certainly won't be anywhere near as deadly as the hurricanes I've mentioned. As technology progresses, the death tolls from hurricanes have steadily decreased. Let's just hope that wherever you are, anyone caught in a storm's path stays safe. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to my Patreon and watch all my other videos. See you next time.